seeing this from Lopez. He's putting in a great opening lap ahead of Aldeguer. He's put about half a second, I reckon that is, already. Good start from Alex Toledo as well. No jump starts just come up on our monitor. That's good stuff. Good news for everyone. But Alex Toledo is up in about 7th place. There he is, just behind Dimasaki Patama. Everyone through the final corner. We've got a race on our hands here. Can Lopez keep on pulling away, or is Aldeguer going to find some answers? This time it's the other way around in comparison to race 2 at Estoril. Last time Lopez was chasing.
Very different race here in the Moto2 class compared to what we've seen so far today in the Moto3 and European Talent Cup. It is a case of you can break away on a Moto2 bike around here, and you can see with Alonso Lopez on the 21. He slides into turn 2. He's trying to push hard to open a gap over Fermin Aldeguer. He wants to make sure he asserts himself over his teammate. For Aldeguer on the 54, he's now been able just to open up a little bit of breathing room between himself and Taiga Hada, but it is a case of he needs to be mistake-free, Kiko. He's ran wide a few times.
He has run wide a few times, and actually another rider who did that was Tulovic. Tulovic was up inside the top 3 early on, and he's going backwards like a ton of bricks here. Through has come Alex Toledo, that is, and I think coming back on him, that could be Kubo, and I think it is Kubo. Didn't quite get him that time, but don't know if Tulovic has got a problem. Well, he has got a problem. He's going backwards, and he's got no answer for it at the moment.
Yeah, and you can see at the front of the field, Lopez has stretched out that lead a little bit more. Taiga Hada there in the 23, under attack now from Adam Noordin. You mentioned Noordin in the build-up, Kiko. It looks like he's been able to build on that confidence of his first podium finish last time out in Estoril to give himself a real solid starts this season. You can see here with Taiga Hada, though, needs to keep himself settled. Fermin Aldeguer's made a few mistakes. You can see his teammate Alonso Lopez out in front trying to push as hard as possible to open up a little bit of a margin over everyone else. But whenever you're riding like this, like Lopez is, it's very easy to push the front a little bit too much in the early laps of Moto2 action here in Valencia.
It really is, and he's got to be very, very careful here. You don't want to push on too much. Oh, someone running well off track at the background. That was one of the stock 600 runners. Is Noordin going to have a look on Taiga Hada? No, Hada on the brakes is very, very good. I must admit, it's one of his key characteristics. Is Taiga Hada on the brakes is a bit of a weapon to say. But Lopez, yeah, he's doing a good job here so far. He's just about got a second. It's 0.9 at the moment between him and Aldeguer. Whether or not Aldeguer is going to come back into this later on in the race, we'll see. Through comes Noordin. He puts that Moto2 bike right where Taiga Hada didn't want to see it, and up into 3rd place, Steve.
Yeah, good move by Adam Noordin to get down the inside there through the 2nd gear. Right-hander. Now for Noordin, he needs to make sure that he's able to close up on the back of Aldeguer. In these early stages of the race, this is when you can start to see the group start to develop in Moto2. That's why you've got to be aggressive. We saw Alex Toledo on the 55 aggressive on the earlier laps. Now he's the man under attack as well. Kem Kubo able to make some progress. Looks like there's a few spots just on that camera as well, so maybe the rider's just getting a little bit of spits of rain out there as well. Maybe that's causing a little bit of an issue for some of them. Haven't really seen too many for us in our commentary box position, but very easy for it to just come up out of nowhere here in Valencia this weekend. That's what happened this morning, but certainly as it is right now, these riders just trying to find whatever grip they can.
This is the race start, Steve. You can see it wasn't the cleanest of getaways from Lopez. The first phase of that really did not go very well. Aldeguer blasted off, but look at Tulovic. Just a little bit cautious on the brakes, but let it roll down into turn 1, and everyone just comes steaming through. Hada made a good start. That's getting tight down there, though, amongst the stock 600 runners. This is through turn 3 and 4. As they all come filtering through. Look at that lovely colour all around.
It's interesting with Tulovic because he's fallen all the way down. You can see the number 3 at the top of the screen trying to attack on Alex Toledo. He's 3rd position into turn 1. Lost a lot of positions in the opening 3 laps of the race. He's down in about 8th or 9th position and actually running a lot off the pace as well at this stage. He's running about 1.5 seconds slower than his teammate for the last couple of laps. Last time around, actually 1 second slower than Adam Noordin, who's the fastest rider out there as well right now. Noordin on the number 7, trying to close down the Boscoscuro bikes. Didn't really expect to see this, Kiko, on the basis of what we saw in the practice sessions and qualifying. But right now for Noordin, he's got his bike working quite well. It's a long race here for the Moto2 bikes, though, so it is going to be a challenge for Noordin.
It's going to be a challenge, but you know, Noordin has got great experience. He's got more experience in Moto3 Grand Prix than the 2 guys ahead of him. Obviously, Aldeguer's not there yet, but especially over Alonso Lopez. So I just wonder if Noordin has kind of found a great operating window for that bike, and he's just making it turn. Valencia is a track where you do see difference is enhanced a bit between different manufacturers, between the Kalex and the Bosco Oscuros. Just on our timing screen, Federico Minozzi has got a long lap penalty. He's right at the back of the field, though, so that won't trouble the front runners.
Yeah, it's a penalty from the qualifying session for riding slowly during the session, so a long lap penalty for him. And now for the riders at the front of the field, you can see here with Lopez still continuing to lead. His pace is very much the same pace as Adam Noordin. Noordin with the fastest lap last time around, only by a few hundredths of a second. Let's see what Noordin's able to do this time around, because it really is a case of trying to put that pressure onto Fermin Aldeguer in second spot. And once again, Noordin was the fastest rider in that lead group, but again, only by a few hundredths of a second. It's settling itself down, Kiko.
Interestingly, both Aldeguer and Noordin were faster that time around. Noordin a 36.93 and a 36.98 for Aldeguer. It was only a 37.2 for race leader Alonso Lopez. So Lopez is not escaping just quite as simply as he made it look earlier on. This is the battle between Tulovic. Oh, I thought he was going to have a big sniff down the inside. Couldn't quite get it done on Kem Kubo. Back at the front, Lopez looks like he's riding that bike. He almost looks like he's overriding. He's really pushing on very, very early. You've got 15 laps to go yet. There is no need to be worried about that. All you're going to do is you're going to wear your tyres down, and you don't want to do that round here.
Yeah, well, you can see there the heat haze now, so any thoughts of those few spots of rain should be gone for these riders now. Conditions are about as good as they've been all the way through this weekend as well for all these riders, and you can see for Alonso Lopez out in front. Kiko, we saw in Estoril, he made a few mistakes as well. He needs to settle down, have a mistake-free race, and see what happens. Fermin Aldeguer just with a quick look over his shoulder.
Yeah, the thing for Lopez is he's got to iron out these small things that are just plaguing him and right in the wrong points of the race. He got beaten up a little bit by his teammate last time out. We got a red flag. We have got a red flag. I don't know what's exactly happened there. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. Oh dear, we've got a rider down. That's one of the stock 600 runners. So we've got a rider down, red flag. So this race will be it'll be brought back into pit lane. They'll restart it. It won't be two-part or anything like that. It won't be aggregate like we used to have back in the olden days. It will just be a clean restart. I'm not sure. We're on with 15 laps to go. We'll wait and see exactly what happens, but a red flag here in the first race of the Moto2s. Alonso Lopez, that's not come at a great time for him, but obviously we hope the rider involved is okay.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how long the restarted race will be. We're only on lap 3, so it could go back to the original grid positions as well. We'll just have to wait and see what the story is with that one. Race Direction make their notification, but big incident there for the stock 600 rider in the field, and you can see a lot of the riders now making their way back into pit lane. We did see that the race leaders were actually already past the pit entry, so they're going to finish off their lap probably and then come back to pit lane. But for all the riders now, Kiko, this is really where you've got to just settle yourself down, try and learn a lesson from what you saw in the initial start of the race, and then try and make some progress from it. For Alonso Lopez, from the pole position, he's been able to lead these opening couple of laps, but now he needs to make sure that he's able to do the same job again in the restarted race. Yeah,
these riders, they'll come back into pit lane. They're not unused to red flags. Red flags are a part of the game that they're in, and unfortunately this time they've all got to come back into pit lane. They'll sit down, they'll reset, and they'll go again, and it'll be a mechanical approach to that. They've got to kind of pick up where they left off. You know, Alonso Lopez, okay, he was being closed in, but he must have felt good on the bike, otherwise he wouldn't have pushed on so early at the start of the race. So that first 3 or 4 laps, they've been educational for the riders around. So the rider now who's fallen is just being taken off on a stretcher as they take him to the ambulance. The red flag's still being waved in pit lane. Obviously pit lane is now closed, and all the riders will come in and go to their boxes and so sit down, contemplate themselves, gather their thoughts, and then hopefully get ready for a restart of this first Moto2 race. It was shaping up to be a cracker, Steve. We mentioned Adam Noordin just then. Adam Noordin looks like he has found a little bit of performance this weekend.
Yeah, and I would say that for Lucas Tulovic as well, from the outside, the front row of the grid, struggled in those opening few laps. At least he's got the opportunity now to try and figure out exactly what he can improve on. You can see for just there able to get himself into the back of the ambulance, the marshals and the medical staff able to treat him immediately at the scene of that instant, and hopefully Leon will be okay after that crash. But for all these riders now, the focus does shift back to what you're able to figure out. Noordin, Kiko, like you said, did a really good job in those opening couple of laps, but is he going to be able to back it up now as well? Does anyone have a fresh tyre as well. All these kind of things come into it now for these teams. Maybe you've kept one spare tyre just in case you get a red flag. You're able to then have a little bit of an advantage during the course of the restarted race.
Exactly, and for the likes of Adam Noordin, it was just that start alone. He knows he was going a little bit quicker than the riders ahead of him. Therefore, he is now believing he has got good race pace, and undoubtedly he has good race pace. But no one thought it was good enough to do that, to kind of go with the race leaders, as Leon Orgis there taken into the ambulance, that he will go to the medical centre and will be treated there, and we will bring you updates, of course, as we get them for Leon. Great rider further down in the Stock 600. He's one of the favourites of the Stock 600 class this year, so hopefully it's not as bad as it looks, and he will be back soon enough. This is Fermin Aldeguer now. He was running second at the time, and he's just sorting himself out, getting a bit of a cool down, because it is warm out there, Steve, and we've said a few times, it's humid. It's very, very humid out there, and after just 3 or 4 laps, they will start feeling it on these Moto2 bikes. Yeah,
we did have threats of thunderstorms here in Valencia over the course of the last couple of days, so that humidity does make it a little bit tough for the riders out there. All of them, though, very fit, all of them taking the same approach as World Championship riders. They want to be ready to step up like Taiga Hada did last weekend in Jerez. They know that opportunities can present themselves. You've got to be ready for it. That's why, you know, fitness is important for them. That's why preparation is important, and that's why dealing with these kind of situations is important for them as well. You've got to be able to react well to it. This is into the box for Taiga Hada there on the left hand side. You can see Taiga now made his Moto2 World Championship debut last week in Jerez, and Kiko, we saw in the early stages of this race, again, very quick off the line, very aggressive on the opening couple of laps to make sure that he was able to make some moves.
Yeah, and he is an absolute predator off the line, really. You understand why they call him Tiger now, can't you? He pounces off the line. He's very, very quick out the traps. And for Harder, what he's got to do, he's got to find a way to make it sustainable and right across the race distance. You know, it's okay being fast in the early stages of the race, but you've got to back that up as the race goes on. Before we cut to him there, you can see his teammate there, number 35, Sam Wilford. So for our British fans, there he is right on screen, the big bad Wilf. Good first round for him at Estoril, top 10 for him, and he's not looked so bad this weekend. He's looked relatively comfortable, and he's doing a solid job there. So Sam Wilford, obviously now a bit more of a regular in the class and looking to do good for the AGR team. Of course, they've been race winners back in Moto2, the top World Championship, back in the days of Jonas Folger.
Yeah, and that team, of course, a lot of success in the past with the likes of Edgar Pons as well. So they know what to do in the Moto2 European Championship. Certainly for Wilf, it's important to make a big step forward this year. This is his 3rd year in the Moto2 European Championship. And there is more of an expectation now to try and step forward, score points, bigger points on a more regular basis, try and challenge it out. We mentioned earlier on, Kiko, on the grid, how tough it is to break into the top 5. It's really tough whenever you've got Alonso Lopez, Aldeguer, the likes of Tulovic, Noordin, tons of experience there.
Yeah, and for a lot of them guys as well, they will have been familiar with Moto2 machinery like DMS Eki Pratama for a little while, especially Lucas Tulovic too, where for the likes of Sam Wilford, it's only just been introduced into the British classes in the last few years. This is Kiko Maria. He's on a Yamaha in the Stock 600 class. Portuguese rider. Hello to him. And, you know, he's not been lighting up the timing screens as far as race pace or one lap pace goes. But, you know, he's improving, and that's what this class is meant to do. You know, he's still very, very young, is Kiko Maria. He's not old at all. It's just about finding that little, the differences that you can make as a rider in a racing situation. We're just getting on our time screens. A quick restart procedure over, and the race distance will be over 9 laps. So it's going to be a 9-lap shootout between the Boscoscuros and Noordin, and maybe someone else can swing a surprise. Taiga Hada's very, very quick in the early laps, Steve. Maybe this will suit him.
Well, the one thing about it is, with a 9-lap race, it really is a case of just trying to maximise everything that you have and try and see exactly what you can do. And certainly for the likes of Taiga Hada, it's an opportunity from, this is Matteo Ratto down there in his box as well. But for all these riders, Kiko, this is a real chance. If you're one of the riders that's usually battling it out for a points-paying position, maybe you're able to get yourself into the top 10. If you're a top 10 rider, maybe you can unsettle some of the riders around you.
Exactly. Matteo Ratto, Steve, he's on the fringe of the top 10, yet to take one this season. He was very quick in a damp warm-up this morning, so very good stuff from Ratto. Maybe he's a believer. The grid positions will be based as they were at the end of lap 3. So that'll be how it looks. So Lopez, Aldeguer, Noordin for sure will be your front row.
Yeah, and it's going to be really tough for Lukas Tulovic coming from all the way down and round about 10th position as well. So it's going to be a big challenge for Tulovic. But if he wants to be a European champion, he's got to step up to the plate in this race. There's only one race for the Moto2 class here in Valencia this weekend. And
for the likes of Tulovic, now what he's done is, you know, before he was starting on the front row and relatively clean and out of trouble. Now he's mired himself right down the field, along with this guy, Xavi Cardelus. He is having a terrible weekend so far, the number 18. You know, these guys, they are ex-Moto2 World Championship regulars. They should be a little bit further up than what they are. And the problem is they're putting themselves around riders they're not familiar with, they're battling with. And it takes a little pinch point, like turn 2, like turn 4, around here at this tight and twisty Valencia circuit, and to be caught out. And you don't need that, especially Tulovic, who started the season with the pole and the podium. He is in contention, Steve, and he should be a little bit further up.
Well, for Tulovic, of course, that crash in the opening race of the year in Estoril really did prove very costly, because the Boscoscuro bikes scored heavily, both of them. And you expect that to be the case all the way through the year. That's what the speed up has done over the course of the last few years. When you look at the likes of Jari Montella last year, it does work pretty much everywhere we go to in the CEV Championship. So for the likes of Tulovic, you can't give up 3 points, and you certainly can't leave yourself with a massive mountain to climb in a 9-lap race. But that's what he's got to do, and he's got to make sure he makes a fast start like he did in the initial start, and then just keep that progress going.
He's got to find the way to get up to at least 5th by the end of the first lap, and that is a challenge. You know, we're talking about he's got to get ahead of riders like Dimas Akupatama, Kenneth Kubo. Alex Toledo is a believer this weekend, so that's really good. Just along the bottom of the screen now, you can see a quick restart procedure. Pit lane will open in a couple of minutes' time, not too long, for 60 seconds. Then the riders will all have to be out on that time. The race will be over 9 laps, and the grid positions are based on the standings as of lap 3, so that will be the last completed lap. For the restart, quick restart procedure, there's no guidance through the grids like we saw the first time. It is purely they go to the grid, one mechanic will wait for them. When everyone's on the grid, they will be asked to leave. We'll go through the grid once more, and then the warm-up lap will start. And hopefully, one thing we haven't spoke about, Steve, but I presume it's not too much of an issue, when Leon Orgis crashed, obviously they will be checking that corner for fluid from the bike, but let's hope there's nothing down there. And therefore the quick restart procedure should be relatively clean and off and running. There won't be 2 laps or anything like that as a warm-up.
No, it should be fine, because we've still got another 5 minutes until pit lane opens, so plenty of time to make sure everything is as it should be. We've also had quite a bit of time to announce that time as well, so yeah, it has been a case of all of the track will have been checked and everything will be ready for these Moto2 riders. 9-lap shootout though is going to be a challenge. The grid's still going to be quite similar at the front with Lopez and Aldeguer, but Adam Noordin able to pick up a spot. Tiger Hada able to put himself up on the 2nd row of the grid in 4th position. And that's what's going to be interesting to see, like how the likes of Tulovic recovers through the pack. You mentioned a few other riders there, Kiko, when we were cycling through the pit boxes. The likes of Xavi Cardelus, a lot of pressure on Cardelus. Tons of experience in Moto2, whether in the World Championship or here in the European Championship. But flatters to deceive more often than not. Yeah, I'm yet to be convinced with Cardelus in terms of what level of talent does he have. There is no question he is fast. We are definitely not doubting that. But one thing is that in Moto2, he's not had he's not been in a bad team. You know, he's had a good opportunity around Aspar team, and he's been teammates with the likes of Jake Dixon, who outperformed him as a rookie in his first season in the World Championship. And now Cardelus finds himself mired down on about the 3rd row. And it just doesn't sit quite right, I don't think. I don't know if we're reading too much into it, but Cardelus, he is a front runner. We know the Andorran is a front runner. And he's just got to convert that pace and convert it with consistency. It's no point. It's like a bit like Tulovic. He's very good at Estoril, but he doesn't seem to be able to do it every single week in, week out. Like, nice to see the local wildlife has come into the stands there. You can see there for the red flag delay. Cameramen need to do something, so they might as well focus on something really small to show how good they are. I see how they went from one sting to another sting. That was terrible, Keeper. But certainly for these Moto2 riders, it is a case of trying to make sure that they're ready once we get back to go green and start this race again. But Kiko, what's always interesting with the quick restart procedure is it's very easy for someone to miss it. It's very easy for a team to think, 60 seconds, but 60 seconds goes pretty quick. And we have seen teams miss out on that. Riders have to start from pit lane. Obviously, over the course of the last few years, teams have gotten used to the quick restart procedure. But it is still something with a little bit of a challenge if anything goes wrong. Yeah,
and it's not, because it's new, relatively new, it's speaking in the history of the sport, it's something that some riders are still adapting to. For the likes of Lukas Tulovic and the Xavi Cardelus, they will have been racing at a time when, the quick restart procedure was not an absolute huge part of the racing, and therefore the 60 seconds didn't really matter to them. Now it does, and it's very hard sometimes because this isn't common. We don't have red flags in every race, and sometimes it's not tried out enough. A lot of riders don't have the experience of that quick restart procedure, and some of the teams don't as well, and that's what's the most important thing. This is Adam Noordin. This could be a little bit of a dark horse, Adam Noordin, for this race. There's only one Moto2 race here at Valencia. He might be wishing there was a second if he can pull a result out of the bag this time around, Steve.
I don't know if he's able to pull out a result. He might just be pretty happy to celebrate that result. I think for Noordin, he had his first podium last time out in Estoril. Now he wants to be able to back it up with another podium. Looked really strong in the early stages of the initial start of the race. Now he needs to make a good start, put Aldeguer under pressure, see if Furman makes a mistake. Because in the early stages of that race, Furman didn't look as planted as we saw him in Estoril. He looked very different out there. Look, it's always a challenge whenever you're put into a fight and you have to react to it. Aldeguer's got some experience, having raced in the SOC 600 class last year. This is only his third race on a Moto2 bike. It's very easy for a rider to just run out of that experience. Things are a little bit tougher, and then suddenly you've got to react to everything going on around you.
One thing we haven't spoke about, Steve, and maybe it's partly the reason why Alonso Lopez has so far had a bit more of the upper hand this weekend. We've had far more stable weather conditions. In Estoril it was a bit damp and it was a bit rainy, and that might have favoured someone like Aldeguer, who naturally is on raw pace is very, very fast. But once everyone else is built into it, we saw it in race 2 a little bit in Estoril. Race 2 saw Lopez come through. And I'm just wondering if the constant weather we've had here, okay, we had rain and warm up this morning, but in general, the conditions have been beautiful. I just wonder if that's allowed Lopez to get a better run at things and build into race day.
I think more important than that is Estoril is such a specialised track.
Yes.
Valencia is a track that all these riders know really well, especially Alonso Lopez.
Yep.
A lot of winter testing here for Moto3, lots of races in the junior classes and in the Moto3 World Championship for him here. So he knows this track inside out. Estoril, when you talk to riders, like World Superbikes went there for the first time last year, and it took until the opening race for riders to really understand the track. And that's where, when you talk to riders that are racing in the Endurance Championship that raced at Estoril, they said that it was quite interesting to see how long it takes for people to adapt to that track. Very different challenge. And here in Valencia, everyone knows roughly what it's going to be. Everyone knows what to expect. You don't have to think about it quite as much. And for Aldeguer, last time out in Estoril, he did have experience there. Alonso Lopez didn't. Now is when Lopez needs to make sure that everyone sees just why he's a rider that's had Moto3 World Championship podiums. He's a rider that you've got to make sure that you keep an eye on all the way through the season. Very different challenge for him compared to his teammate, but he's got to make sure that he answers the call.
He has, and he has got to make sure that they can get away as well. You don't want to be getting away with Noordin, because Noordin is the outsider here. We're not expecting Noordin to challenge for the title week in, week out. At the moment, though, I mean, he's had a podium all year. Maybe this is the start of a proper attack on this campaign for Noordin. We know he's quick, but at the moment, the Boscoscuros just seem to have the edge.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Noordin's able to do it week in, week out throughout the course of an 11-race season, whereas we know that the Boscoscuro bike worked everywhere last year, the year before as well, very competitive. So we know that they're going to be quick and competitive all the way through the season. Noordin, he needs to make sure that people know that he can do that as well, but the only way he's going to do that is by building on what he did in Estoril whenever he had a podium in the opening race of the year, 4th in the second race. If he's able to come away with another podium here, he makes people stand up and take notice of him, and that's exactly what you've got to do. But a 9-lap shootout is a very different battle. This is where, in the Moto2 class, this is where we're going to see much more of a Moto3 style race. You got to just send it down the inside. You got to make sure you're aggressive all the way through. You don't have to think in terms of your tyre life. And we've seen this time and again, Kiko, in the World Championship, where when we have a red flag race, it can be a bit of carnage whenever we restart.
Exactly, we can see a lot of chaos, that is for sure. And like we said in the run, as we were running through all the boxes down there in pit lane during that red flag procedure and period, this is going to favour the likes of Tiger Harder. Kevin Kubo, if he can get a good start, Kubo is definitely in the mix. We know he's quick in the open stages. He's led races before, so both of them riders are definitely ones to keep an eye on. I'm not expecting much more from anyone else from really behind row 2. Tulovic will come through, I'm fairly sure of that. But then again, he dropped quite quickly. So I'm not sure if there was a bike problem and he was suffering it and the red flag has allowed them to change something, or if he was just getting shuffled back. The weather conditions are, as you can see, lovely. It's partly cloudy, it's 25 degrees air temp and 33 track temperature, no wind more or less. It's a lovely day down here in Valencia. For Moto2, the FIM CEV Repsol Championship, it is round 2 of the championship. We have got many more rounds to come to you. And Steve, this is the third race of the day out of 5. And we don't really know what to expect here. For the first time, really, in Moto2, there's 3 or 4 of them.
I'll just go ahead and say, I expect Alonso Lopez to keep his form going. He's strong all the way through this weekend. Keep an eye on the 21. Pole sitter in the initial start, pole sitter also in this restarted race as well. It's going to be really interesting to see what Taiga Hada does. You can see the number 23. He's leading the pack now around on this siding lap. But Taiga Hada knows that this is a real opportunity for him now. Starting from the second row of the grid, we know he's always fast off the line. He can try and put a lot of pressure on the riders in front of him. He'll certainly feel that he's got a chance of being able to pick up his first podium in the European Championship. For Fermin Aldeguer, we see there in the 54, there's a lot of pressure on him now as well, Kiko. Double winner last time out, didn't quite have the pace in the initial start. Can he answer what Alonso Lopez has put up to him? I think he will. But I think, you know, Noordin got a very good start last time around, and now he's on the front row there. He's on the inside as well, so if he can get a good hole shot, get a good launch, Noordin could be a spoiler by the time they even get to turn 1. But let's see how it plays out. Yeah, keep an eye on Lucas Tulovic from the third row of the grid on the number 3 machine. Tulovic, one of the pre-season favourites, expected to be a leading contender pretty much all the way through this season. But he's got his work cut out for himself, starting from that third row of the grid, and only 9 laps of action now in this restarted Moto2 race. Alonso Lopez on pole position from Fermin Aldeguer. We wait for the 9 laps to start. And Lopez from the pole has made a decent start. Noordin with a good start. Taiga Hada once again on the 23 with a very good start. Hada trying to just weave his way down the inside in towards turn 1. Is he going to be brave to try and take that race lead? He's not quite able to do that. Slots into second place behind Alonso Lopez. Fermin Aldeguer once again down to third in the initial stages. Is he going to try and make a move down the inside into turn 2? He doesn't want to let his teammate Alonso Lopez get out of sight. He's going to make sure that he's up into that second position. Yeah, good start from Taiga Hada. We said this would favour him, and it does. Will Aldeguer go for the lead? No, because he's about to be shuffled back. Through comes Taiga Hada, the 23 there, and so did Noordin. The number 7 of Adam Noordin got ahead of Patama, I think. So the Southeast Asians are absolutely having a field day at the front here. But out front, Alonso Lopez, carbon copy of race 1. He is of the first part. Sorry, he is up and running at the front, but he's got to shake off Taiga Hada. We know Taiga Hada is electric in the first stages of a race. Yeah, Taiga Hada on the 23, trying to make sure that he's in a position to keep Alonso Lopez very honest in the early stage of this race. Ken Kubo made a good start. He's up there in about 5th position now, having gotten through on Eki Pratama. That's a crasher for one of the stock 600 riders down the field. Easily done in these shortened races. It looks like that could be the other Orgis brother. Kevin Orgis. But for the rest of the field now, they're just going to make sure that with this 9-lap race that they're in a position to be able to attack all the way through. Alonso Lopez, this is a godsend for him as well, though, Kiko. He's out in front, and his main championship rival as it stands right now is teammate Fermin Aldeguer with a bit of work to do. Aldeguer, though, up into second spot. Hada's going to try and get the run on him on the exit. Not quite able to do that, but in this early stage of the race, Alonso Lopez doing exactly what he has to do. That's Taiga Hada in third spot. Adam Noordin, podium man in Estoril, going to try and attack to take third position here. here from Tiger Hadda. Not quite able to do that action-packed opening lap, Kiko.
Yeah, very good opening lap. Tiger Hadda sitting pretty in third there. It was the number 44. That is Kevin Orgis, I'm sure. He's back on his bike. That's good stuff from him. Let's see what happened further down the field. He's just going to tuck the front. Ooh, he tucked the front very early on. That bike is skittering through the gravel. Luckily, though, he's okay. Stumbles on his feet. But back to the front, please, if we can. Alonso Lopez was leading last time around. Is he going to be leading when we switch back?
Down at turn 8 there for Orgis, and it's still Alonso Lopez leading the way from Fermin Aldeguer. Adam Noordin has managed to get his way up into third spot. Tiger Hadda now under pressure from Kem Kubo. Kubo there on the number 9 machine. Very aggressive rider, Kubo, and trying to make sure that he's able to come away with another top 5 finish. That's the kind of target for the number 9 machine all the way through this season. You can see at the front of the field, though, Fermin Aldeguer, very different rider in this shorter race compared to what we saw in the early stages of the initial race. He's put the pressure on straight away here on his teammate Alonso Lopez. Further down the field, that's Tiger Hadda in 4th position, under pressure from Kubo. Kubo in the early stages of this race looking very competitive, and then Lukas Tulovic, he's moved up into the top 6 on that number 3 machine. Needs to pick off those riders in front of him and come away with decent points paying positions, because once again we're seeing the Boscoscuro bikes out in front.
We are, and contrasting lines there, Steve, through the 12-13 flip-flop. Lopez runs it in very, very fast in turn 12, and he's almost off the track as he comes into turn 13, and it kind of disrupts his run through the long left-hander. For Aldeguer, he's much faster, and he's much faster right now. He's going to go through. So the number 54, Fermin Aldeguer, he is not wasting any time this time around. The number 54, he's won 2 races already this season. He's just set the fastest lap as well, and now he's in the lead. So will he be able to break Alonso Lopez? Will he be able to break Lopez's spirit? He has been fastest all weekend, really, Alonso Lopez. And now he's the one doing the chasing, and Noordin is still there in 3rd.
Yeah, and for Aldeguer out in front there on the 54, it's now a question of what Alonso Lopez can do. In Estoril, he didn't have answers for Fermin Aldeguer. Now he needs to make sure that he's able to answer straight back. But Aldeguer in this lap, able to stretch out a couple of bike lengths straight away on that number 54 machine. We know how strong he can be whenever the bike's working well. Maybe a few changes there just for himself back in the pit box have made all the difference for him. Adam Noordin doing a good job here to go with the race leaders at the early stages, and that's why he's been able to open up that bit of a gap over Tiger Hadda. Tiger Hadda taking a tighter line through turn 8 there just to make sure he's defensive against Kem Kubo. Early stages in the race to try and be defensive. Kubo's going to try and get a run on him, and certainly as it is right now, Kubo looks like he's got a little bit more speed than Tiger Hadda at this stage. Yeah, I'd love to see a fight with them two. I'd definitely be buying a ticket between that Hadda and Kubo. They're some of the most aggressive riders in this field, but as you can see, it's only for 4th. Out front, though, Aldeguer is still ahead, but he's not really put too much time in just yet. We've still got a long lap penalty for Federico Minozzi. That's right at the back of the field. Noordin, though, is right on them as well. The front 3 have broken away, Steve. Yeah, the front 3 breaking away. You can see Tulovic here on the number 3 machine trying to get his way back into this group as well. Kem Kubo there on the 9 just in front of Tulovic. Tulovic needs to pick these riders off quickly. We're already at 1/3 distance here, and out in front it is still a case of those leading riders all breaking away. There's only a second separating Aldeguer, Lopez and Noordin, but right now Aldeguer pushing hard to try and open that gap. Aldeguer's got the hammer down, Steve. 36.5 last time around. That's the fastest lap of the race. 37.2 for Alonso Lopez, and then in 3rd place, Kubo trying to go down the inside, not quite close enough there on Tiger Hadda, but he's getting impatient now as well, Kiko. He knows that it's Tulovic behind them as well, so he's got to try and make this move quickly, because Tulovic is going to be a man that's going to try and make those moves as well. Yeah, Hadda's a bit of a buffer. We've said this so many times. He's quick in the early stages, but after 2 or 3 laps, he's just not got the pace to continue forward. Kubo, much more stable rider in terms of outright pace as they come into turn 8 now. Very tightly squeezed between these 4, battling for 4th place. Out front, though, the gap is around 0.6 of a second, and I've got to say, it's not looking too bad at the moment for Aldeguer, as Kubo again trying to look on the inside, but he's under pressure from Tulovic. He's under pressure, but it is Kubo trying to make those moves. At the front, though, you can see that it is starting to just stretch out. Aldeguer doing everything he can at this stage just to try and break the spirits of his teammate, but Adam Noordin doing a really good job in 3rd position on bike number 7 just to keep those Boscoscuro bikes inside at this stage. This is what we've seen time and again in the past, where the Boscoscuro bikes are under pressure in the early stages of the race, but then pretty quickly establish themselves and open up a little bit of gap to everyone else. Kem Kubo on the number 9, using that slipstream from Taiga Hada. He needs to make this move quickly, because otherwise he's going to be under a lot of pressure from Tulovic. Into turn 1, though, Taiga Hada strong on the brakes into turn 1, able to carry that speed. For Kem Kubo, he's going to just have to try and make the move, just send it down the inside, maybe down in towards turn 2. He's able to do that. He's got to try and get down into the left-hander, able to make the move now. He's got to get his head down now, try and break away from Taiga Hada until Tulovic makes that move as well.
The problem is Hada is so strong on the brakes. Is he going to try and fight back? He had a bit of a look, but not at turn 4.
At the front of the field, we're seeing now Fermin Aldeguer really start to get his head down. He's opened up 0.8 of a second over Alonso Lopez. If you're Alonso Lopez, you set the pole time, you've set the pace all the way through this weekend. There wasn't much to choose between them. But right now for Alonso Lopez, he's looking at a much less experienced teammate, the guy that he would have expected to beat, and suddenly he's getting smaller and smaller, and it's just tougher and tougher for Alonso Lopez.
Yeah, it's just not what he wants.
Oh!
No!
We got a crash. It looks like it could be Kem Kubo that's gone down at turn 8. Oh. And for Kubo, that's going to be so disappointing. Trying to make sure he was able to come away with another top 5 finish. Very easy to have that crash and then run into turn 8. Very easy for the riders just to push a little bit too hard through there, trying to make a move and get themselves caught out. And you can see the disappointment there for the Thai rider. He's been a constant top 5, top 6 runner, still trying to make sure he's able to make that next step. And in this case, Kiko just pushed a little bit too hard.
You rarely see Kubo make too many mistakes like that as well. He's normally, I mean, he's not a neat and tidy rider, but he doesn't crash so often. And that is one of them corners. It's downhill braking, off camber, turn 8. It's a bit of a disaster. It's very, very bumpy as you go in there as well. So easy for the front end to wash out. 1.3 between the top 2 though, Steve. That's Tulovic. Oh, dear me. He almost rode pillion there with Taiga Hada into turn 1.
So easy to do that into turn 1 as well. Oh. You try and carry the speed through there. It's 100 miles an hour for these Moto2 bikes, give or take, and very easy just to be a little bit too fast in there, a bit too committed. And that's also what then costs Tulovic into the next corner. He's not able to make the move into turn 2. Now he's going to try and set it up into turn 4. He's clearly faster than Taiga Hada. Hada's just able to put his bike into the right place. It's only a matter of time though until Tulovic on that number 3 machine moves himself up into 4th position. But as it stands right now, with 3.5 laps to go, the gap between Adam Noordin in 3rd position and Taiga Hada has opened up to around about 3 seconds. So even for Tulovic, if he's able to make the move in Taiga Hada, unlikely he's going to make too much more progress than 4th position. But I'll tell you what, coming into this year as one of the main title contenders, he's got to salvage a top 4 here to at least leave Valencia with some decent points. Out in front though, Fermin Aldeguer looking to leave here with another 25 points. And for Aldeguer, Kiko, this is really impressive. He's got his head down, consistent pace. He's opening up that gap. It's a 2.5 seconds now to Alonso Lopez.
It's looking like it's going to be 3 wins from 3 for Aldeguer. I hope I haven't cursed him. But this has been impressive from Adam Noordin. You know, we talk about Tulovic. He's been beaten now by his teammate. Adam Noordin has already found good form around Valencia. And hopefully it's a sign of what is to come. And he's not dropped off the back of Lopez, the same as Lopez has dropped off the back of Aldeguer. There's only half a second between them. Yeah,
when you look at the pace right now, Noordin round about a half a second slower than the race leader, but certainly just giving himself a chance. Last time out in Estoril, first career podium. Taiga Hada with a bit of a problem there, maybe just missed a shift or something, but certainly looked over his shoulder coming down the start-finish straight. He's lost a couple of spots. He's going to be down into 6th position now, trying to see if he can answer back to Pratama in front of him. But for Taiga Hada, he's lost that progress over the last couple of laps anyway, Kiko. Now down to 6th position.
It looks like he's got is he missing a gear or something? He looks like he's got a gear problem as he's going up through the box. Has it stuck?
Well, he's shaking his head there anyway. It's the team. He looks down at the shifter, and certainly some sort of an issue there for Taiga Hada. He's going to just have to try and get through the rest of this race. There's only 2.5 laps left for the Moto2 riders. If he's able to come away with some points in this race, then it's not too bad. He's not going to be able to. That bike's just said enough for the day, and unfortunately for Taiga Hada, a day that actually promised quite a lot for him. He's going to come up with nothing to show for looking down there at his bike for any sort of mechanical issue. But unfortunate there for Taiga Hada. Out in front though, still Aldeguer from Lopez, Adam Noordin, Tulovic now up into that 4th position, but he's not going to make any more progress than that. Out in front though, 2 laps to go when they come across the line next time around, Kiko. Fermin Aldeguer, he's really stretched out, very different to what we saw last time out in Estoril, but also really impressive to see the progress he made from the initial start. Yeah, he wasn't looking like this in the first start, and it's just going to be so demoralising for Alonso Lopez. I mean, he's second again to his teammate, and to his teammate who's younger than him, who's only 16, he's never been on a Moto2 bike before.
he knows the tracks, he knows the championship, but he doesn't know, you know, he shouldn't. We've never seen this kind of form from a rookie to be right up the front like this. Aldeguer really is something a bit special. Adam Noordin still chasing down Lopez. It's just under a second. It's hovering just under a second. I can't imagine that things are going to change too much between them unless Lopez just gets a bit complacent, but we haven't seen that so far either.
Yeah, the gap now 2.5 seconds for Lopez to make up to Aldeguer, so that's gone, but it's around a second between himself and Adam Noordin, so needs to just make sure that he's able to avoid making a mistake on the final lap. But for Noordin, I'd say he's going to be pretty happy to settle for another podium. Second podium in a row for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff from Noordin. It'd be his first back-to-back podiums. Well, not back-to-back podiums, but 2 podiums out of 3 is not bad. But a good shout out here for Alex Toledo, running there very, very strongly in 6th. That's the best we've seen of him. And also Andy Verdoya there in 9th and Sam Wilford in 10th. So both of them breaking into the top 10 further down the order.
Yeah, and certainly for the likes of Toledo, he was the rider that was taking the fight in the Stock 600 class to Fermin Aldeguer last year. And they had a real battle all the way through the season. So we know he's got talent, but now trying to make that next step. This is Lukas Tulovic, and he's been able to just break away a little bit from Ekidimas Pertama. But at this point in the race, Tulovic 13 points. When you're looking at Fermin Aldeguer picking up 75 points potentially from these opening 3 races of the year, it's an absolute mountain to climb now for Lukas Tulovic. You're looking at the rider that is separating himself out from the rest of the Moto2 European Championship class. Fermin Aldeguer on that number 54 machine. Right now, though, for Alonso Lopez, a lap to go, Kiko. He's got to make sure he picks up that 20 points per second. 15 points between the 2 teammates isn't an insurmountable amount at this stage of the season. He's keeping his teammate honest. That's all he can really do right now.
Well, the thing is, what Lopez has got to do is he's just got to score the best points he possibly can, because it's okay, Aldeguer going off and winning like this, but one mistake from Aldeguer and a victory for Lopez and the title's back on. And that's how Lopez has got to be thinking. He can't be thinking that he's defeated, that he's down and out already. We're only on round 2. That he is going to have his time to shine in the sun.
Yeah, and certainly for Alonso Lopez, a podium man in the Moto3 World Championship a few years ago in Thailand. We know he's got speed. We know he's going to get opportunities to win races throughout this season. He's actually adapted very well to a Moto2 bike as well. And I think in normal circumstances, you'd look at it and you think he's been a fantastic first couple of rounds on the bike. But whenever you look at this man, he's redefining what you mean by fantastic. Fermin Aldeguer jumped onto a Moto E bike last week in Jerez, immediately qualified in the front row. 2 for the Boscoscuro team, and a second podium in the season for Adam Noordin. And in the Moto2 class, we've been able to see these riders immediately separate themselves in the early rounds of the year. Lukas Tulovic comes across the line, picks up 13 points in 4th position, but certainly not what Tulovic would have been looking for in the early stages of this season.
Yeah, Tulovic, he's got to get back on that podium. He's got to start taking it not just to the Boscoscuros, but to his teammate as well. Great 1-2 for the Boscoscuros again. They're clearly the team to beat. Another fantastic victory, though, for the number 54, the 16-year-old Fermin Aldeguer. Make a note of the name, because it's going to be prominent.
Further down the field, Alex Escrig able to claim the Stock 600 honours once again, and matching what he did last time out in Estoril. He's had a really strong start to the season, able to take that race victory by round about 2 seconds from the next Stock 600 rider. So a really impressive performance. Mika Perez, he'll be on the podium once again in the Stock 600 class. But for Fermin Aldeguer, we're once again seeing just how strong he can be on a Moto2 machine. And for Aldeguer, this is just another example of why a lot of people in the Grand Prix paddock have taken notice of him as well. But certainly, as it is right now, Alonso Lopez knows that 3 podiums in a row, 320 points in a row, he's got his work cut out to make up that ground on Fermin Aldeguer. But he's had a solid start to his Moto2 season. He's got a little bit of a wait until the next round of the Moto2 European Championship, but he's got a bit of time to think about what he's going to have to do to try and find some answers to Fermin Aldeguer. The same can be said for Lukas Tulovic there on the number 3 machine. He's been able to come away with a 4th place finish, but certainly for Tulovic, he would have expected a little bit more from these early season races. Obviously, we know Estoril is always a really strong circuit for him, and Valencia hasn't always been a happy hunting ground, but certainly for Tulovic, he'll be disappointed to have been beaten by 5.5 seconds from his teammate Adam Noordin. Alonso Lopez makes his way back to Parc Ferme. He's got round about a month until the next race in Catalonia in the middle of June. So he's got a bit of time to figure out what he can do to try and bring some sort of a fight to his teammate Fermin Aldeguer. 3 very different races that we've had to open up the Moto2 European Championship, and 3 races where we've seen Fermin Aldeguer win in very different ways. This race, he was able to run away from the field, but most impressively, he was able to learn a lot of lessons from the initial started race to then try and find a lot of progress then for race 2, or for the restarted race. Let's see what Alonso Lopez's reaction is down there in Parc Ferme. Pretty muted down there for Alonso. You can see that little bit of disappointment for him. Gets a thumbs up from the team, but certainly for Alonso Lopez, he would have expected to be a lot closer to his teammate Fermin Aldeguer. We'll wait and see what the embrace is between the 2 teammates, but another 1-2 finish for the Boscoscuro team. That's 3 in a row to start this season, but unfortunately for Alonso Lopez, he's been on the back end of that result on all 3 occasions. Adam Noordin able to come away with his 2nd podium of the season, so a 3, a 4th and a 3rd place finish in the opening 3 races of the year. Really good start to the year for Adam Noordin, and he'll certainly think now is the time to really kick on in the Moto2 class for himself and establish himself as the leader for that Liqui Sepang International Circuit team. You can see the smiles down there in Parc Ferme for Noordin. He waited a long time for his first podium in the Moto2 class, and now he's been able to really enjoy this one. This is the 2 Boscoscuro bikes. This is Fermin Aldeguer making the move for the race lead. And down in towards turn 1, this is where just leaves that braking a little bit later, comes down through the gears, able to slide his way through in the braking zone and then just carry that speed all the way through. And from that point on, he just got his head down and made sure he was able to open up the gap to his teammate Alonso Lopez. Really impressive performance once again from Fermin Aldeguer. It's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say down in Parc Ferme with Kiko. We'll be able to hear that in just a couple of moments' time. But 3 races in a row, 3 wins in a row for Fermin Aldeguer, and it's been a fantastic start to the season for him. Fantastic start to the season for the Boscoscuro team as well. That's the team that won last year's championship with Jari Montella, and they really do look like they've put themselves into a position to win a 2nd consecutive European Championship. And they've certainly hired the right man in Fermin Aldeguer, only 16 years of age, just turned 16 last month, but already looks like a very cool head out there on a Moto2 machine. Really impressive how he's been able to step up from a stock 600 bike onto the Moto2 machine and immediately set the pace in this class. Let's hear from Fermin Aldeguer. He's down there in Parc Ferme with Kiko Giles.
Fermin Aldeguer, a 3rd win from 3 races. How does it feel? What a start to your season.
I'm very happy with the victory because we worked too much in this weekend. In all 3 practice, I go very fast, and this is the result. And thank you to all my team because they work too much. And thank you to my family.
And in Spanish.
Bueno, estoy muy contento por esta victoria porque hemos trabajado mucho durante el fin de semana y durante todos los entrenamientos hemos ido muy rápido. Y bueno, muchas gracias a mi equipo que ha trabajado muy bien y a mi familia.
Congratulations, Fermin. Well done.
Thank you.
Alonso Lopez on pole position in the Moto2 class. Not quite able to make a fast start off the line. Fermin Aldeguer was able to take the whole shot and lead the early stage of this race. Lucas Tulovic able to make progress up into 2nd spot, but Tulovic on the number 3 machine immediately started to fall backwards. It looked like it was going to be a Boscoscuro benefit at the front of this field, with Alonso Lopez able to retake the race lead. Pole sitter opened up a little bit of a gap behind to his teammate Fermin Aldeguer, but in the early stages of the race we did have a red flag and that changed everything. Red flag was for Leon Orges' crash, and when we resumed, the riders had an opportunity to see who could make some improvements compared to the initial start. Fermin Aldeguer was the rider that made the biggest step forward. After struggling a little bit in the initial stages of the early race, he was able to move himself up into 2nd position and then try and close up on his teammate Alonso Lopez. Tiger Hada was aggressive as usual at the start of this race, but the Japanese rider would eventually fall down the field and have a mechanical failure. He wasn't the only rider hitting trouble. Aldeguer was able to make his move on Tiger Hada, and from that point on, he was able to make sure he was able to close up on his teammate Alonso Lopez. He'd take the race lead, and from that point on, he'd open up a gap that would eventually stretch out to well over 2 seconds. Cam Kuba was disappointed after crashing out of a potential top 5 finish. This was Taiga Hada retiring from the race, and a potential top 5 finish for him as well. But Fermin Aldeguer able to come away with 25 points once again in the Moto2 European Championship. 3 wins out of 3 for the young Spaniard. So here's our results from the Moto2 European Championship race here in Valencia, the 3rd race of the season. Fermin Aldeguer able to come away with his 3rd race victory of the season, and another 1-2 finish for the Boscoscuro team, with Adam Noordin able to claim his 2nd podium of the season.